Got it.
Well, good evening and welcome to our viewers and listeners wherever you are. This is the Cricket Show. Today, the post-match review of the 2023 Asia Cup Super 4 semi-final match between Sri Lanka and Pakistan. The Cricket Show welcomes you and Coach Jatin Patel, along with Cricket Show President Leon Francis. Good evening to you, Leon. Good evening, Coach.
Good evening to you, Dennis, and Coach as well.
All right. Well, we'll just tell our listeners that this is the Cricket Show. We can be reached at www.blogtalkradio.com/the Cricket Show, or you can send us an email to the Cricket Show at comcast.net, or join us on a Sunday at 1-515-605-9850, 6 p.m. to 9 p.m. Eastern Time Zone. We also have online and YouTube channels, so plenty of ways to reach the Cricket Show USA. Now, we begin. Asia Cup semi-final between Sri Lanka and Pakistan. In my view, for this match, Pakistan with injuries and poor form made 5 changes, and with the rain effect, there was a reduction in overs of about 8 overs. This was an unbelievably exciting match. Thrills, suspense, and real nail-biting to the end. Pakistan won the toss and elected to bat first. The wicket fell at 9 runs. The first wicket fell at 9 runs in over number 5. But Babar Azam, 29 runs, and Shafiq steadied the innings with a 69-run partnership that was broken in the 16th over when Azam was out-stumped. 3 more Pakistani wickets fell between the 16th and the 24th over. The score then was 130 for 5. A fighting 108-run partnership between Mohammad Rizwan and Iftikhar Ahmed took the sting out of the Sri Lanka bowling. Rizwan 86 not out and Ahmed 47 in the end. At the end of the 42nd over, Pakistan had scored 252 for 7. Sri Lanka run chase at 6 runs per over looked steep at the beginning. However, Nissanka and Mendes' 77 runs partnership kept the chase on target. With Nissanka's departure, Mendes 91 and Sadira 48, the century partnership, Sri Lanka was fully in control. The target was in sight, 5 wickets in hand, 30 runs to win in 7 overs. This was time to ice the champagne. Not so fast, said Pakistan, and 3 quick Sri Lanka wickets, and Pakistan was jubilantly expecting victory. However, it was Sri Lanka's champagne that was popped. With 8 runs scored in the final over, Sri Lanka won by 2 wickets on the last ball of the match. Another final against India for the defending champions looms in a couple of days' time. That's my take on this semi. Leon, what's your take?
My take is not much different to what you would have said, but the only thing I can't imagine that Duckworth Lewis again, 252 for 7, 252 for 8, off the same amount of overs. I can't imagine that Duckworth would have given Pakistan a win in that regard. I don't know if you guys see it differently, but if a team scores the same runs, lose less wickets, and they both tally the same total, I can't see it. But Duckworth has their method.
Well,
I'm sure most Pakistani would have been disheartened by losing this match. They were hoping to have a big show down in India, but that was not to be. But that is my major concern. A good match, good for cricket, but Duckworth to me mess it up this time.
Coach?
Coach, are you there?
Yeah, yes. No, sir, on that one. Actually, what the DLS in this particular game was,
Mhm.
the game was reduced from 50
Mhm.
over match to 42 overs.
Right.
It did not give any other mathematics here. So whatever the Pakistan made, 252 for 7 in 42 overs, that is exactly what the target Sri Lanka has to make it, means 253 to win. And they did it. In
You
same,
said two. You said 253.
yes, they made 253. They scored the 2 runs when they needed 1.
251. Yeah, I agree.
Okay, because my scorecard is telling me 252 for 8 and 252 for 7.
Yes.
That is
I don't
correct.
know.
That is correct.
Yeah.
That is correct.
So where did the 253 comes in?
They did run. They did run.
They did run. I think they run 3 runs. Or
Yeah,
they needed
3 runs.
1,
Instead of 1, they run 3, but they only counted 1 because at
1.
that point,
The
you
match was
got the
1.
win. So there is
Yeah.
no need to.
Okay. All
Yeah.
right. Okay. But why would they say that then? They should put the runs that he scored, right?
I-
Even though
Eh,
the winning run.
whatever it is, but that's a complicated. But overall, if you look at it, it's a very exciting game.
Yes.
As a
indeed.
fan standpoint, this is the where you can get your most of your returns on the bucks you spend. Means whatever the money you spend, this is the real entertainment. Okay, but as expected, Pakistan is going through some patchwork here, and now it will be the huge concern as we discussed 2 days back. Because Pakistan, to me, in this particular game, they lost the intent. I don't see the intent playing this game because it was originally set back by some injuries. They bring some replacement, and things did not go well. And this, like at the stage when they badly need win to go to the final, this change is always a risky solution, and that is what exactly happened. They little bit disturbed in terms of the intent, and captain made some changes, but at the end of the day, if you look at it, we feel like few bowlers could have better option at certain point. If they had introduced the Iftikhar spinner and this sign Afridi at right time during that middle overs, it could have changed the outcome. They were in situation with the 1 over left. The entire momentum was on Pakistan's side. But then, because of these bowling changes, captain had no choice rather than going with this new bowler, the debutant, to give them this huge challenge. And even though I would say middle orders batting for Pakistan, as well as middle order bowling from Pakistan, both were without any intent to me. And the things are built up on their own with the pressure, where the fielding also let it go. There are incidents many times you can see that the fielder has taken that runs very lightly. They already anticipated, like, okay, there is a 2, why I should work. Okay, there is a single already, why I should go quicker. In this format, quicker fielding and quicker releasing ball, throwing back to the wickets, it's more important. And that was the case many times. They missed out. They missed out. And again, there's a Pakistan side now have to be seriously consider where they are now, because it's not about just out of Asia Cup, and Sri Lanka is going through to play their 11th final, I think, in Asia Cup history, and then they're facing India. The way I look at it is it's advantage India. They played very lightly against Sri Lanka and let them go against Pakistan. And with those margin and run rate, they had it. They should have inked down that we will be playing Sri Lanka again in final. That is what
Yes.
it's coming up.
Yeah.
The thing,
That's schedule.
yeah, the thing is like does not make sense is this entire tournament or very recent matches in Colombo, whoever is batting first and putting together 250 plus definitely has a huge advantage under the lights. And it did not go well against Sri Lanka. So that means your fielding and the bowling was not sharp enough
Mm.
to compete for that score. You have decent score, 250. We know that. 213 was even not even decent score against India. When India made 213, Sri Lanka had a hard time to get to that total. This is much better score, 252, right?
Yes.
Another 39 extra runs. But at the same time, what the India did in terms of the fielding and bowling, Pakistan was not able to put the same show here. And it all credit goes to the Sri Lankan batsmen. Time to time, they did take advantage and scoring boundaries at right time to stay away from the pressure. And that is what end result is. But the huge concern is not just being out of Asia Cup. I'm expecting 2 to 3 players from these Asia Cup activities may not be able to start the World Cup. Because when you get injured at this level, there is not much recovery time left,
Yeah.
No.
especially for the bowlers. Because bowlers, most of the injury, if you look at it, the most commonly we think about it's about 4 to 6 weeks recovery. And we don't have this time here. So with that, I will say the Pakistan will be in a huge challenge to see how they can come up with the World Cup. And this will be a little bit psychological impact on a team that they'll be under pressure because the things did not go well as expected. And when you bring changes, especially closer to the World Cup, it's definitely not the right or perfect thing to have the new team. And but again, we are excited to see this interesting game today.
Yes.
Yeah.
Definitely, this brings India and Sri Lanka as a showdown on Sunday. That will be the huge.
Right.
Yeah.
And of course, we will remember that Sri Lanka beat India last year in, I think it was UAE for the Asia Cup final.
Yeah.
And having said that, has Pakistan ever been in the final of the Asia Cup?
Yes, few times,
think-
but they never played a final against India in
India.
Asia.
Okay.
All 3 countries had enough opportunities to be in a final. But I think India-Pakistan final in the Asia Cup, I don't think ever happened.
Has ever happened.
Okay.
Okay.
And this is the repetition. I talked in the previous 2, 3 shows that Sri Lanka did came back by beating Pakistan and then took the India out in final. And this time they are in a better position than they were last time because now they are playing against at home and against India under their conditions.
Yes.
And don't forget, this Sri Lanka, since that Asia Cup win, they are on the rise. Even they have the young players, inexperienced players. They are in a huge rebuilding process to develop the team. I will say their performance is definitely eye-catching. You have to understand how these young players are performing at international level. Remember, in a very recently, when the 12 teams World Cup qualifier held in Zimbabwe, where West Indies being knocked out, but Sri Lanka went through undefeated entire tournament. That includes beating West Indies and all other possible teams out there. And that tells that they have the perfect leadership, good combination on field. And this is the team I will say we need to watch out for, because this couple of youngsters are definitely a good and potential match winner on any given day.
Yes.
As for Pakistan, coach, don't you think that they have been playing too many games, too many matches? Every time you look around you, Pakistan is involved in some tournament, and
Well,
possibly most.
we cannot say anything from outside, but it's our opinion can be always different than whatever the agenda and the preparation plan they may have, right? It is, to be honest, if I have to speak with my opinion, then I will say yes, definitely. Pakistan could have tried. It's not about how many games they're playing or how frequently they're playing or how much rest they're having, but they could have followed same thing like what India did in terms of rotating players and resting some key players at some point, so everybody can be healthy and fresh enough to get going. And yes, that is the huge concern. If you're playing lately so many games, and if you're only relying on some players with this workload situation, we call it, they need the rest too as a human being. And over
Yeah.
here, this looks like the rest was not granted. So now the injury is taking stalls, and these players will be on rest now.
But
It's in,
but just like other tournaments, you find that Pakistan usually starts poorly, and the end they 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 just come good in the end and challenge another team. So let's hope that this happens. We got a good showdown between India and Pakistan in India, and this is good for world cricket to me.
well, under normal circumstance, one would have thought that a total of 252, with the reputation of the Pakistani bowlers, should have been defendable. But quite clearly, the Pakistani bowlers have not been up to scratch of late.
Injury too.
Afridi, who used to be what I consider a real terror to batters, seems to have lost some of his cutting edge. And I don't know, he was injured sometime last
Recently,
year,
yeah.
and I'm not sure if he has fully recovered and gotten back his sharpness, because he did not in any way trouble any of the Sri Lankan players, early order batters at any rate. And without Shaheen Shah being at his top game, Pakistan seems to be really struggling. He did not have the support of his other bowlers. I know Ahmed I know that Iftikhar got some wickets in the end, but in the long run, these are wickets which came towards the end of the match rather than at the beginning when you needed to stop the flow, because Sri Lanka started out on 6 runs per over, and they never fell more than point something of a run, or less than 1 run below. They were always within 5 and 6 per over from the very opening. So it shows that Pakistan bowlers were not using the kind of guile that they needed to use to prevent Sri Lanka from scoring. And of course, all right, let's not take anything away from Mendes. He was in full charge and he was having a good day. He stood there early on and he carried his bat virtually, did he not carry right through to the end almost? And when he went, that's when Pakistan suddenly thought, oh, we have a chance here. But not for bad bowling and field placing. I thought in that last 2 overs, they needed 6 runs. I don't understand why you did not have men on the boundary and invite them to take singles. You remember they had a couple of 4s in that last 2 overs which, if they did not score those 4 boundaries, would have put them under more pressure. And yet the fielding was such that he'd left those boundaries totally unguarded, unprotected. And I don't know what the thought was behind that kind of field placing during that time. Pakistan have only themselves to blame for their misfortune today. They performed poorly.
What I feel as far as Afridi is concerned, I feel that having played among these players so often, by now the coaches would have worked out a plan for them to play him, because he's the key. I mean, once he's blunted, it means that Sri Lanka could have scored more easily against the other batters. And all in all, these coaches are not taking it easy. They're getting details on these players. They know what they do, and they are telling their players when he does certain things. I'm sure, coach, that's how it goes. That when you're bowling, you're gonna bowl a slower one. When you're gonna bowl one that leave you, have to, risk any shot against him if you play him out, and then you can then score from the other bowlers. Barbara Azam, and well, he didn't do too well. 20 odd runs. We're expecting him to come good with an excess of 50. So again, he might have been tired. He might have been exhausted for being in the. I'm sure he's under a lot of pressure too, because they were expected to take this home and take this series, this Asia Cup, but having not played in India, outside of India, should have given a better showing, but it wasn't to be. So all in all, I just don't see. It was a good set practice for them, but it didn't help Pakistan the way they thought it would, because they are now injury prone and a little not undermined, because they're not going out with any confidence into the World Cup. And here's Sri Lanka looking good, and they are looking at a dangerous side. We cannot underestimate them at all. That's my take.
Well, what I see is a intent-less Pakistan squad today in the field. They had no intent.
No intents.
Whatever the
Okay.
reason, they were like lost, confused, and wasn't sure what to do. And that is what we can see. It's a matter of angles and distance. This game is all about. So if you have the better fielders in 30-yard circle at any given point during the game, you can have more advantage and better options to stop the boundaries. Did not happen. Fielding placement is the key. Not sure what happened here, but I feel like some of the positions in most of the game, they had an odd fielder in an odd position. In terms, I will not say these are the bad fielder or not a good fielder, but they are not in their own comfort zone, we call it. Every player has a something in comfort, like, hey, I can be good at mid-wicket. I can be good at square leg. I can be good at long on. And that wasn't the case. And you can see that the fielding was a little bit harsh, and the player tried their best to make up something out of it. But the biggest part on the bowling side, with just one bowler, Shaheen Afridi, left in the game to be your main go-to-go bowler or striking bowler, it's being under the pressure for one reason. Bowlers also work in tandem, or we call it in partnership. Just like a batting partnership. You have to bat well, and under the crisis, you have to rotate the strike and build the inning. Same thing here. If you have one good bowler, you must need another supporting bowler at the other end who can try to contain the batters from scoring boundaries, at least in this version of the game, right? and it did not happen. So it's just one bowler itself taking too much stress and playing under pressure. That is what his performance is getting derailed. Last two games, similar story. He did not do well, or he did not do to his potential or standard he has shown in the past. And because of that, we can't just blame just bowler. Besides the bowling, the unit support was missing there. I don't see any other player has done what exactly what he is capable to do or he has done today. We have seen it many times. He's talking to the other players, means other bowlers, to guide him or help them what's need to be done under the current situation. But nothing came out because it's not just bowling. As we see, the fielding was failure. And top of that, batting failure was there. You should have scored at least in this game 280 plus to secure your spot for the final. But anyway, the game is over now. It's Pakistan going home, and we'll be up for the next match of Sri Lanka and India, which will be decided by the spinners. Let's take it this way, because
Yes.
both teams has a heavy spinner. And in your previous contest, we see that 15 wickets went to spinners out of 20, 75% of the wickets.
Wow.
And that's a huge for this level. And this pitch belong to spinners. And the venue, Sri Lanka, is more comfortable. But there are players in the Indian team who can challenge on this surface. So we have to wait and watch exciting final on Sunday.
Yeah.
So-
One thing I observed, though, coach, is that Pakistan will have time to rest now, number one. And secondly, know that India has qualified and they are coming up against Bangladesh. It should give them an opportunity to play some of the players that they did not play, number one. And then we have Rahul, KL Rahul, who has just joined the team as a second wicket keeper. I believe he too might get an opportunity to show his ways. So all in all, it's a good thing, and let's hope we don't have an upset. Sri Lanka, am I correct in saying they are the defending championship
Yeah.
for the year?
Yeah,
Well,
yeah.
yes, they would want to retain the title, and of course, being at home is another agenda. Is another objective I believe they'll want to hold on to. And thirdly, or finally, what is the sum that is given to each team for winning the Asia Cup? Do you know offhand?
We'll find out before the final for sure, but not sure if I have read anything yet because this is just a trophy. I don't think it's the winning money,
It's just a true,
but
okay.
this will have some sort of financial support to being a
Yes.
participant. But going back on that one point when you say Pakistan will be well rested, actually don't.
Don't they?
The
You think
rest,
they'll be nervous?
no, let me tell you the important point in my coaching style, I will say. Rest in a relaxed mood is really a rest.
Yeah.
But when you have a rest with the concerns and questions,
Anxiety. Okay.
right? So this is not the proper rest you want to have it. It's
No.
actually more stressful and painful than you could have the relaxed rest.
But let's put it, they'll have time to plan better. Or
Yeah,
have
means
more
they
time to
have the
plan.
extra time now, extra time, and it's a
Extra
good
time
to
to
have.
plan.
And the
Yeah.
good to have in a one way that whoever the player is recovering, they got extra few days. That's a plus out of
Yeah.
this
Yeah.
situation.
They have extra few days, but remember they've got a lot of injuries too, and we don't see those injured players being fit enough to participate 100% in 2 weeks' time. As regard the India Sri Lanka matchup now, Sri Lanka may have some tired legs. The question is, will they make any changes or will they be tempted to rest players? India's now in the driving seat and they have more than enough to choose from. They're strong. So I think this should be a good game in the sense that Sri Lanka have their home advantage, home court advantage.
Right.
So India has already demonstrated to Sri Lanka 2 days ago exactly what they will bring to the table when they start. So I'm looking forward to that, which should be another exciting game, because Pakistan, Sri Lanka could certainly came close enough to take that match 2 days ago, but unfortunately for them, they didn't. But we'll see what happens when they meet in 2 days' time.
Another question that I'm going to pose, and you touch a little bit on it, Dennis, is the crowd support for the final, because they're at home, and I understand the crowd was. I didn't see the match today, but the fact is, I understand the crowd was well supporting their team, and for them to be not getting the same support, I don't see that happening. So we'll see. I hope everything goes well, because this too will determine how the other teams will look at Sri Lanka, and no longer can they overlook them. They're not only India or perhaps Pakistan, but Sri Lanka is a team is to be reckoned with. So we can't just overlook them.
The only the thing I can say is more confusing for Pakistan itself is their plan for the World Cup has been, I will say, dented.
Dented, yes.
Or must be changed because of these injuries. And that is maybe a reason that Pakistan squad for the World Cup has not been declared yet. So that means whatever the plan they had ahead of Asia Cup should have been on the back of the wall, and they might bring the plan B to move forward with the World Cup with the healthy players or some changes. And as I said, when you make changes at this point, it is very difficult to get going in terms of the leadership and the field planning situation.
India has seen fit to pick their final 15.
Yes, they did their squad, and now they are like in that, I call it the conservative mode, means they're going to play safe. They have nothing much to risk here in terms of the injuries, and all players just want to pick up the momentum, get accustomed to the weather and situation for the September, October, November months down there in South Asia, which is typically more due as we make progress in the season. The monsoon is not there anymore, so we don't expect rain in India in October, November, but this will be the heavy dew in a lot of grounds. And that is where they need to start working on it, because once you got the dew, especially in a second inning of the game, and then usually difficult time for the ballers to grip the ball. Same thing with the fielding. So there's a lot of challenges out there, but India is looks like on their plan, and they are playing safe. And I will say they are not taking lightly, but they are also not taking heavy risk in this Asia Cup with the World Cup is in process.
Do you know it? They're playing day-night games in this World Cup?
There are a lot of day-night games.
There are a lot.
Yeah.
I think Pakistan and Australia are supposed to be playing, I think, the first. I didn't
India has I believe, the 14 major international stadiums. All of them are equipped with day and night. So they will most likely go with the night, because that is the where you can pack up the stadiums.
And just coming back to the Asia Cup final, any long-term weather forecast that you've heard?
Not at this point. We have to watch this game tomorrow between Bangladesh and India. It's just a practice game for some of the players in India, and maybe a couple of bench players get opportunity to play rather than staying on bench for the entire Asia Cup series. And this will be the good test to see what they are preparing for. At the same time, Bangladesh is also another country who has not declared the World Cup squad. So I believe they are waiting on this game. And once the Asia Cup is over, by next week, I will say we will have the World Cup squad announced by Pakistan and Bangladesh both.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And looking forward or ahead of the World Cup, what do you think? I mean, Australia's just finished their series in South Africa, and it's a series that Australia, completely took South Africa apart. Looking ahead, do you think South Africa will be presenting any meaningful challenge in this?
Same as
It will be very difficult to say, but look at the things going on. You have New Zealand and England coming fresh from the
yeah.
city.
Mm-hmm.
These are all South Asian countries. All five of them are coming in a World Cup fresh from Asia Cup. Then you have Australia and South Africa. So if you look at overall, there are 9 teams are definitely coming with some very recent action, if I use the right word. Means they have the momentum with them. South Africa always does well in last 30 years, to my knowledge. They always come good. They do really make a good show at
Except
the beginning, and they usually chokes up by the
yeah,
time
choke.
playoff
Yeah.
starts, right? So,
Yeah. Yeah.
let's hope so. But this year, it looks like will not be that strong compared to last 3, 4 World Cups because they are also in a rebuilding process. They have a couple of good bowlers. They have a couple of good batters. But we are
But
not
they have.
expecting the performance what they used to do. Let's say this way.
Yeah.
Okay.
West Indies can get into the back door.
No, West
No.
Indies will be
No.
West
I'm
Indies players
joking.
will be playing against the TV.
TV. Yeah, a thought came to me.
They'll be first
A
time
thought
playing World
came.
Cup with remote control. How about that?
Yeah, a thought came to me today. I say West Indies the next World Cup. Well, they'll get in the next World Cup, but the West Indies to be permanent in the World Cup, they have to just get some of those players that are not being picked from other teams in the world and let them qualify like England. England are feeling a lot of players who were born in elsewhere. They grew up in England and now they are helping England to win. West Indies need to have some of these players and when these other players, these guys who likes to go into the IPL and the other franchise around the world, we have other players they can, and that will help nullify the situation and let them come home to play for West Indies.
Well, that's for another day. So
that's for another day.
yeah,
Indeed.
that's for another day,
Indeed.
another story, another time.
Yeah.
So looks like we've about come to the end of our show for tonight. Once again, I want to thank Coach Jatin and cricket show President Leon Francis for joining us this evening. And we invite you, our listeners, to come back and join us certainly on Sunday for the cricket show, www.blogtalkradio.com/the cricket show, or send us an email. We will certainly make every effort to respond, or call us and join in the show 1-515-605-9850, 6 p.m. to 9 p.m. on Sunday. And we will certainly look to cover. Are we planning to look at tomorrow's game, or tomorrow's game is more likely a practice match? I'm not sure that it is worth the effort of a
We will do the pre-final and post-final.
We'll do the
Yes.
pre-final, post-final. So see you folks again.
Yeah, but just before you go, Coach and Dennis, let me, on behalf of the cricket show, congratulate Dennis on obtaining the honor. His honor.
Same to you, Leon. That was
yes,
the honor
thank you
from
so much.
the Quiz Win Cricket and Cricket Hall of Fame.
Yes, indeed.
For your outstanding contribution to cricket, and we'll definitely talk more on Sunday on that particular topic.
Definitely. Right. And by the way, Jatin, we have gotten the two ladies to to make the announcement. Two
Which is-
ladies,
Yeah.
which is Connie, which is my niece, and my cousin in England also will be doing the one to Dennis. So
No
that you know.
problem. No problem.
Okay.
That's good.
Good night, all. God
Good
bless.
night, all. God
Thank
bless.
you. See you next time.
Yes,
Right.
indeed.
Good
Yeah.
night.
Good night.